two former park board presidents, some former park board members. My former park board member is somewhere in here, Mr. Smith. So if you all could stand up and introduce yourselves. We have some new members to the board. I think it behooves them to not only get to know you, but to hear your words of wisdom.
This time I want to introduce our next speaker. Like I said, as you all know her, and you know the entire team, the Friends of Dallas Parks. If you don't know them, I always refer them as the $312 million team, okay? Because they were our biggest advocacy group that went out on behalf of the park department and really advocated for the support of the 2017 bond program. So at this time, I would like to introduce Ms. Delia Hasso, who is a board member of the Friends of Dallas Parks, and as you all know her as a former council member and also as the former vice president of the park board. Ms. Hasso.
Thank you, John. Well, I did my introduction, so I want to go through who Friends of Dallas Parks is. We are literally an advocacy program or organization for this board. We want to fill in the gaps for you. We don't want to take little projects from smaller groups. We want the big picture. We want to work with Willis and your group in order to fill in some of those blanks that the bond didn't cover and your operating expenses don't cover. And we'll take all of our direction from Willis. And that's the difference in an advocacy group and a group that doesn't advocate. So as he said, we were very involved with the bond program. We wrote letters to city council people. We have a list right now of 1,100 citizens in the city of Dallas who are with us on anything we need to advocate for, and we will continue to do that. So next slide. These are some of the milestones that we have accomplished in the last year, and I guess it goes back to 2016 when Mr. Max Wells roped us into doing it. No, he convinced us that as former park board members, we had a responsibility really to continue the great work that all of us had done on this park board. You know, you guys attend a lot of meetings, as I did, and we wanted to continue that that passion for the Park and Recreation Department. So these are some of the big things we did. Obviously, 11/2017, which is the last thing on here, where that $312 million in bond money was approved by the City Council. And I have to say that you started out with, how much, Willis?
115.
115 turned into 312 because of our advocacy, and we want to see that grow. All right, next page. We do have a website, and we have a Facebook page. We will update our website to include some of the new things that we've been doing in 2018. Next slide. Some of the messages to our supporters were calls to council members, the mayor. The most important thing we can do at this point is to contact your council member and the mayor and let them know that parks are important to our neighborhoods. And so these are some of the people on Friends of Dallas Parks. Myself, C.W. Whitaker, former park board member for many years. Amy Monier, a former park board member. Wayne Smith. Francis Gonzalez, a former park board member. Max, ex officio. Robert Kent with Trust for Public Land. And Bobby Abtahi, ex officio. Next page. The Friends of Dallas Parks will continue advocacy for capital bonds, annual budget, and more as necessary. We will help to undertake studies to create a message and deliver a message for you guys. A lot of times people don't want to hear from the park board member, but when it comes from a neighborhood group or an advocacy group to deliver a special message, we will be there for you. We want to fundraise for director-selected projects, and our liaisons are Peter and John. Next page. We will continue working with all of the groups that we brought to the table for the bond program, and most of those were friends groups of different areas, and they do a little bit of their own fundraising, and that's okay. I think the big difference is that we have the big picture, and we did all the advocacy for you when you needed that money. And then also support future projects. I think what Jesse did today was a perfect example of something that, you know, Willis needs $7 million for the redo of this place, and we'd be glad to take that on if Willis directed us to do that. And that's it. That's who we are and what we are doing and what we will continue to do. Max Wells also has some ideas and wants to talk to you a little bit about some of those.
Well, they're not little ideas, they're ideas for all of us. You are the people we're doing this for, because I know how limited you are in the position you're in. All I want to say is when you hear, well, two ways. When you hear somebody who says, and you know they have money, and they say that it's sure a shame we don't have a whatever. Well, if you don't feel like you can get that done and get the money, then you need to call us and we will go with you. And we will make the presentations for you and do everything that's necessary. On the other hand, we're going to have to call on you sometime because we're the ones who heard that they said they were worth $6 million. But at the same time, it's you who has you know the people, we don't. So it's kind of a reverse, but in every way, we want you to know we are on your team. There isn't anything that we won't try. If you need it, we will try to get it done. And so over the years, I think you will find that this is going to be a very great thing for both you, and it also gives poor old people who used to be on the board. We have a cause. Thank you.
I'd like to, thank you, Max, for all the big ideas that you set in motion that have come to fruition now. The aquatics plan being one of them, but also our parkland dedication ordinance that finally got passed. So thank you for that. I think that's a good example of what can be done when we have big ideas. One thing that I think this board has been saying and will continue saying, and you'll hear me say more of, it feels like because of that parkland dedication ordinance and that bond election that we are set in terms of our capital budget for a little bit. What we need to really focus on is our operating budget. So we need to start the whatever you want to call it, the drum beats now to say that, hey, our parks need some help. We're building, we're expanding, but we also need to clean, take care of, and keep safe. So I think that's something that Mr. Dickey, who will be planning our annual retreat, is going to make sure is part of the agenda, and it's something we need to all start thinking about. Okay, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had a comment and a question. As my brief time on the board, it's actually been almost exactly a year, I've sort of gotten the sense that one of the biggest objectives of the department is to engender new friends groups and support existing friends groups. And so the question of how do you start a friends group, I've got a constituent who wants to start a friends group for Bachman Lake Park, for example, which is an enormous park with enormous needs. And she's kind of like, well, what do I do and how do I start? So not so much at this point, how much money could you give us, but are you all able to help these new groups because there are other parks in District 6 that could use friends groups as well, but we don't really know how, is that part of your mission too, is to help groups, and in what ways could you do that?
Absolutely, we can certainly help them in organizing a community meeting. That's all you do in the beginning. We can then get them knowledgeable on the things that you need, what the park needs, you know, if they have certain things they want to bring to the park, that's, you know, that's also applicable, but mainly to be a friends group for that area, really you just have to have a community meeting. And then we would definitely support them. We did, obviously, used all the friends groups when we were advocating for the bond program. So we'd be more than happy to help.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey. Ms. Williams.
And we are a 501c3, by the way, now.
Yeah,
We're a 501c3.
that's why we came today.
Good morning, and I want to say thank you all. And Max, you know, every time I see you, Mr. Wells, it brings me joy because I have to share this little story. When I first got on the board, I was very passionate. I didn't know how to tone it down, and I really have to thank Max for pulling me to the side. Miss Donna Ray, he said, you know, you got a bright future ahead of you, but I'm gonna need you to tone it down. But he, no, I say that jokingly, but he really took the time out to show me how to govern and take care of business without being so rowdy. So Max, I will go to my grave thanking you for helping me become a great board member. And I talked to Mr. Whitaker this morning because I've been getting requests, and I think it's time for us to have a Crawford, or Friends at Crawford with the aquatics. And then we just think Louise is working on a development for the lake bed. And so since it's gonna be great, Barbie has already committed to help us because Keys Park have a wonderful friends group. So can you all provide me with your contact number after the election? Because I think it's important that you all come and really explain to the group how things work. And I think Mr. Whitaker said that we can just have y'all earmark the money because I don't want to be responsible for no money. But thank you all for all that you all do, and we really appreciate you all.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Collins.
I echo what Ms. Williams said, that we are critically dependent and supportive of what you all have done. I really do believe that the bond issue passed successfully because of a lot of your efforts, and that some of that was expensive, some of it was expensive of your time. And so we do really appreciate that. That was, in fact, it was at your event at Rodeo Goat that many of us met each other. So we're appreciative of that. I was just curious, what are you currently fundraising for? Are there any particular projects that we could help with, or would just like to know what you're working on?
We need to get lots of cash for you. If we can't raise money, then we won't be able to do all the things we want to do. We can do some minor things, but I've said I'll take that on, and I pray I can. But we're going to work originally on trying to get a good base of cash in our little sack, and then go out and use both. But I have to admit it is cash.
Okay, so you're general,
Which is still will come back, and you will have if you ask for something, well, let's say you want to do something, I would assume that the main guy up here will probably set up how you go through that process would be yours, not mine. But at the same time, if that's what everybody wanted to do, or however you do it, I don't care. As long as it's for this group, we're going to try to do it. But it is money we need right now.
Okay. Well, we could probably help find some projects, right, Will?
I thought maybe you could.
We have some ideas. Thank you very much for all.
Okay, and if you seriously, some of you know people who have money, and we're going to try to do some things that the big boys and girls do, to where you can put your money in, and with tax kind of offers, you can. Anyway, we'll be back to you. Don't worry.
Ms. Barbie. Sorry, Mr. Slaughter. You skipped one.
Yes, I'd like to thank you guys for your effort. And I was drugged to was it Goat Place? Our president Bobby, thanks to Bobby, got me involved. was really informative. I do know people with money, and one of them is C.W. Whitaker, so.
Real money, we're not talking about play money.
Effort that you've not only done for the city, but for this park, and what you did for Miss Williams, did that really work? Because I like to see that she was, if this is toned down, boy, I like to see it. So I'm going to pray for you, because what you did with Miss Williams, you should be commended.
Let me, if you'll pass these out. And by the way, if you already know my address, and I don't quite have enough, so if you already know it, you don't get enough.
Thank you, Max.
Ms. Barbie?
Since you're talking about suggesting, Luis Salcedo did a pro bono design for a bridge we need down in the Keys Conservation Area. He said it would cost about $300,000, so if you could put that down on your list, I would be the Friends of Oak Cliff Park
Well,
would
no,
be very
you need to
grateful.
put it on your list and come and say, why don't you come out and visit with us and our 82 people, and we'll all get together and see what we can do.
I heartily agree with that. As a matter of fact, the Trust for Public Land is already on board with this, so we're trying to.
So those are the kind we would love, and then we'll take credit for all of it.
We don't care who gets credit, we just want the bridge.
Yeah, but we do.
Thank you.
I want to thank you all again for being here. I want to thank you for all the previous work you've done on the park board, because I think the idea that you are made of former park board members is a strong one. You know exactly, one, where the bodies are buried, two, how to get things done and how to cut through a lot of the red tape at City Hall. So thanks for being here. Thanks for the update. One thing for you all and for fellow board members, I've talked to Willis, kind of hoping by the end of the year we will start some real efforts on looking on a policy or some sort of paper or roadmap on how we can increase our funding, whether that's through more city money, organizations like this, but something that we can kind of adopt and talk about long-term, what we can do to increase our annual operating budget. So hopefully that'll come in late November or December. So thanks again for being here, all of you. All right.